Live, waiting to go live. I think I'm live. Hey, everybody. I'm doing two interviews in a row in 2 weeks. And tomorrow I've got two more interviews back to back. So I'm pretty stoked that I'm getting back in the interviewing thing. You may notice that I have an unusual backdrop, and it's not a green screen. It's a quilt that my great grandmother made in, I don't know, the 60s or 70s or something like that. I can tell you that her and my great grandfather were probably the biggest racists I ever met in my life, and I never heard the N word so much as when they were in the room. But I got the quilt, and I remember her by the quilt, not by the racial epithets that I heard. But yeah, so I'm here. I'm not plugging anything today. Nobody's paying me to plug anything. So if you want to pay me to plug anything, I'll be glad to plug it. But today I'm not. Uh, the one that I thought was going to stick with me decided not to. So whatever. I think I used the F word too much. But I am excited tonight because tonight I have got an Indianapolis comedian who is 1 month away from recording her first full length comedy album. And she's produced shows that raised over $15,000 for reproductive health groups in the Midwest and is a contributing writer for AWF Magazine. And I did a little bit of digging and found out that she also wrote a whole bunch of articles for historicindianapolis.com about the cool parks in Indianapolis. Let's bring her out. It's Gwen Sunkel. And I'm going to
Hey,
move you
what's
over
going
here,
on?
Gwen.
What's going on?
So I just gotta say, when you were writing for historicindianapolis.com, did you find out anything remotely interesting about the parks that you wrote about, or did you just do the best you could?
No, I'm a real history buff, so I found a lot
Okay.
of a lot of very interesting things. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was an East Sider for a while, for a couple years, and
Yeah.
I worked at it was called Farrell's Restaurant at the Washington Square Mall. And
Oh, okay.
is the Washington Square Mall still a thing? Is it still open?
Yes, it has like very few stores in it, or like very few tenants.
Uh-huh.
But actually, there's like a guy in town, Tevin Studdard, who is doing some really amazing things and like has been holding these. It's either monthly or bi-monthly like job fairs and like entrepreneur fairs there. So in the hopes that like they can get some more traffic in there and maybe some of these people can open up like actual long-standing stores.
Uh-huh.
So that's a very long answer to your question to say, eh?
It's still there.
The physical structure still exists.
Yeah, yeah. It was a neat job. I actually started in South Bend. I met my wife there, and then
Uh-huh.
moved to Indianapolis for a couple years, and moved back in the South Bend, Indiana area, and now I'm in Huntsville, Alabama. So it's been uh, it's been a long ride. But yeah, I was
Yeah.
when I was it was so funny when I was on the east side. It was a really nice little apartment complex, and the funny thing is you could drive, like, I think it was like 2 miles east,
Uh-huh.
and all of a sudden you're in the corn. You're the
Yeah.
it's it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't, you were in the middle of city, the edge of a city, and it was very
Mhm.
city-like, and all of a sudden it was all corn. So that's what I remember about being on the east side.
Yeah, definitely. If you take one of the non-interstates out, especially, it's just like all of a sudden you're right. It's an abrupt change.
Yeah, yeah. I remember my road name was, Mithofer,
Okay,
and
yeah.
so that was, and it was real close to Pelham Pike, I remember that.
Mhm.
And there was a Ground Round, that's where we used to get dinner sometimes, was the Ground Round, and
Wow,
I think those are gone.
I think they are as well. Scott, you are really showing your age here,
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah,
I
yes,
love it.
yes.
That
Yeah, like I wasn't showing it, just being on the screen.
with that quilt behind you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, though. It's really great to
Thanks for
have
having
you,
me.
and it's funny because I get to talk to a lot of indie comics, and I think I think Dwight Simmons might have been the last one I had on. And it's funny,
Nice.
Dwight and Alex Price were here in Huntsville a couple months ago, and they did a show, and
Yeah.
I got to see both of them. So I know all of them, and I've interviewed a few of them, but it's great to finally get you on because they all say great things about you. So
Oh, they're so
it's
sweet. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. And I wanted to get right into the album part,
Uh-huh. Okay.
because I've talked to a lot of comedians that released albums, but
Hmm.
you are in the pre-release part, which is the
Yes.
planning and all that kind of stuff. And comedians do it so many different ways. They get a label, they self-produce, they
Hmm.
do, all different kinds of different ways. So, first of all, what was the impetus of wanting to do the album, and how did you
Hmm.
do it? How have you done it so far? What?
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of like the primary reasons comedians record albums are like to have merchandise to sell at your show.
Mhm.
Um, and then nowadays, like the way to make money as a comedian, aside from like writing jobs, is getting your stuff picked up by Sirius XM.
Mhm.
So if you have an album, it's easier to kind of like shop your jokes out through that as opposed to just sending them like here's a one audio recording of one joke, you know.
Uh-huh. Right.
Um, so initially I was going to put the album out myself, but then so I was like making a lot of plans for that and everything and trying to figure out how to get it distributed and whatever. And then somebody from On Tour Records approached me and asked if I would like to do it through them. And I said, absolutely, because
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to do any of this stuff. And I was having to like learn it all on the
Right.
fly.
Yeah.
And other people are very helpful in like sharing their knowledge and everything. But like I also have another full-time job, and if I can push some of this off onto someone who knows what they're doing, seems like a win-win for both of us.
Right. It's funny, I just talked my episode with David Britton's coming out tomorrow, and he did his album
Nice.
with On Tour Records,
Oh
so
yeah,
that's the
nice.
second
Yeah.
time I've heard On Tour, so really cool.
Yeah.
As far as preparing for the material and stuff like
Mhm.
that, how many years of comedy do you have rolled up into the hour that you're gonna put on the album?
I mean, I've been doing comedy for about 5 or 6 years.
Mhm.
Obviously, like, I don't have a ton of jokes that from, like early in my career that I'm still doing because, a lot of that is learning how to be on stage and timing and
Mhm.
how to write a joke and things like that. And you can be like funny and entertaining in that, but not necessarily like, album worthy like
Right,
jokes,
yeah.
you know. um, and so, yes, some of them, stick around and some of them evolve into other things. And what was once a, whole 3, 4 minute joke is now like a throwaway line kind of in another joke.
Right,
And that's
yeah.
just like how it happens. So, uh, I've been doing a lot of sets where I get to it's hard because I want to do like an hour at the album recording so that I can kind of like cherry pick the best 45 or 50 minutes of it.
Mhm.
Um, but it's hard to get to like people have been really helpful in like giving me longer sets to practice and stuff, but it's like it's still hard to get someone to like let you run an hour. So,
Yeah.
you know, um I'll probably have only done like the complete thing, a handful of times before the actual album recording, but
Uh-huh.
I'm getting to do like 20-minute, 30-minute chunks of it a bunch, and that's been really helpful too.
Uh,
I can like play around with the order a little bit and see, okay, how do I like how this works and stuff.
mhm. Very cool. You talked a little bit about jokes that, either evolve into something bigger or get, crushed down to something smaller. Do you
Yeah.
have I was just thinking about this because I don't do very many sets lately because of COVID and all that kind of stuff, and
Mhm.
my son's getting married, and my, I've got a young a young grandson and even younger grandson. So I'm just not getting out that much. And I did a show Friday, and I looked back at my joke book, all the stuff that I'd written, and I was looking at some of that stuff, and I was looking at things that have evolved into stuff that was bigger, and I've looked at
Yeah.
stuff that I've just thrown away, and I've looked at stuff that exactly what you said just became a throwaway line. Do you have
Yeah.
anything in your that you've written that you love so much as maybe even a minute or 2 minute joke that just started to become stale and you were sorry that it went away? That you miss it almost like you miss a friend?
Yeah, I think I've had a couple of those. I'm trying to remember anything specific, but yeah, it's so weird sometimes how like you'll tell a joke for the longest time that like just lands and does really well, and then
Mhm.
all of a sudden it's like I don't know if like I've lost my zest for it
Yeah.
or like what, but yeah, I guess so when I guess I used to really frequently tell this joke. It was like everybody says that Jewish people are so good with money, but weren't they the first ones to get caught up in a pyramid scheme?
Uh-huh.
Um, and like at first, like it was getting great responses, and then I don't know if people like thought maybe it was kind of anti-Semitic or anything, and it's like it's a wordplay joke. It's not anti-Semitic, and
Yeah.
so like and I also had like and not that I want to be like, oh, I have a black friend or not like that, but like I
Mhm.
had multiple Jewish people come to me and say like that joke is hilarious and it's not, or just revamp how I use it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I lost you for just a second there. I think,
Oh,
this
I'm sure I wasn't
apartment
saying anything important. So.
No, it was great. This apartment dwelling puts me the furthest from my wireless router, so
Ah,
it's
yes.
just it just sucks. I'm sorry, but this whole apartment life, I'm too old for this shit, so I'm not gonna do it anymore. So I gotta get a house. But it's
Fair enough.
hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard. So as far as what you decided to make as material for the album, what was it that, you've been you've been thinking about this for a while and you're planning it. What
Mhm.
was it that made you make the cut, not make the cut? Did you cut anything out that you think you might need to put back in? I mean, where are you at right now as far as your set lineup?
Yeah, so I think I have like I've got it down to at this point like a pretty firm idea of like what order I want to do it in and everything. But it's been really fun to be really deliberate about a lot of times when you're going on stage it's like oh I want to try some new stuff and I haven't really been like working on or writing any new stuff because I'm working on like perfecting and punching up the
Mhm,
existing jokes, and so being really deliberate about that has been different, as
mhm.
opposed to like so much I feel like of comedies it's like how much quantity can you produce
Yeah.
because you're always like one that's what keeps it interesting for like us as comics is to be able to write new jokes about our experiences and stuff like that, and then just always stuff is like only relevant in the zeitgeist for so long that you want to make comments on and stuff, and it's just so um trying to pick out material that was going to be like you know timeless and have like a great like appeal to people but also really shows a lot of like who I am. So I do like a chunk about like my relationships. I do a chunk about like working in hospice and like the like death and dying industry.
Mhm.
I just some different stuff like that I talk about like how terrible our healthcare system is and stuff. But I make it fun,
Yeah.
it's a fun talk about gun control is what it
Uh-huh.
is.
Yeah.
A lot of gut busters.
Yeah, no doubt. I've
about
watched a lot of
feminism.
your clips, and you're very good at taking subjects that are touchy like that and lightening them up to the point where just about everybody is okay with it. And but
Yeah,
have
yeah.
you had any incidents though? Because you've got a couple that might go either way.
I did get like audibly booed one time because
Uh-huh.
I told like a Trump joke, and it wasn't again, it wasn't even like a super offensive Trump joke, or it was like Donald Trump is the president the same way that Crocs are shoes.
Uh-huh.
Uh, like it's factually accurate, you
Yeah.
know. Uh, and like these people, they were like already pretty drunk, and but they started like audibly booing me from the back
Uh-huh.
of the room. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely gonna do, yeah, some stuff that the stuff that's like a little bit, I don't know, somewhat edgy, I guess. um but this is also like my crowd, you know. This is
Yeah.
they're they didn't just buy tickets to go out to see a comedy show. They specifically, you know, bought them to see me. So
Right, right. You
you get what you pay for, people.
yeah. So you said you started about 5 or 6 years ago. What was it that made you want to start stand up?
Yeah, so I had always like performed a lot as a kid, like in high school, college, and you know, younger than that. And then once I graduated from nursing school, I was working nights, and it's really hard to like commit to doing a lot of stuff that happens in the evening when you work
Mhm.
nights.
Yeah.
Um, so you know, that all kind of like was on a back burner. But then once I finished grad school and got kind of a more like 8 to 5 kind of schedule, I was like, well, I would really like to, you know, get back into performing and like working on creativity. And comedy seemed like a really good option because it's a little bit like on your own terms. You know, you don't
Mhm.
have to be like at rehearsal for Godspell every
Yeah.
night for the next 6 weeks or something
Yeah.
like that, you know. uh, not that I wouldn't love to be part of someone's amateur production of Godspell.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
call me, okay, call me
Yeah.
directors. But uh, but yeah, so initially it was kind of a thing where I was like, oh, I just want to get on stage like once a month or something.
Mhm.
And then but like once you start doing it, you can't just do something once a month and like expect to get good at it, you know.
Right,
And
yeah, no doubt.
I loved it, and I was pretty good at it. Again, I think because I had a lot of like performance experience, like I already knew how to like hold a microphone
Mhm.
and, you know, introduce someone on stage and be introduced on stage and things like that, that, you know, we take for granted. Like there is an actual learning curve for some of that stuff.
Mhm.
And I feel like people who have like either a performance or improv background kind of like, they kind of get to like they almost like skip a year or two of like comedy
Yeah, yeah.
experience, you know, because they're
Yeah.
not spending that first year just getting over like stage fright and nerves and stuff like that. So,
Right.
uh, yeah, so I loved it, and I just wanted to be like better at it and continue to get to like do an art form that I think is really fun and unique and challenges me, but it's also like we're so lucky. Like I think we take for granted that like we get to, you know, even if like if you're regularly hitting the open mic scene in like a bigger city, I mean, you get to see a live comedy show like 4, 5, 6 times a week. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
how
There's
special is
definitely
that?
some gold in those too. There
Yeah, yeah,
you get surprised and somebody comes up for their first time or somebody comes from out of town or something like that, and
yeah,
you if you pay attention, you really get some good stuff.
absolutely, yeah. And just hearing people's laughter is like so healing, and
Mhm.
yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of why I got into it and
Cool.
kept doing it, I guess.
And you're a really good writer. I read some of your AWF articles
Oh,
and,
thank you.
even a couple about the parks too, and good
Woo.
good stuff there. And, you're good at the satire
Thank you.
and all that. Do you write for anybody else besides AWF?
Not right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
because your writing's really good.
Oh, thank you.
I really liked your articles, and you got quite a few there. So
Yeah. Do
they
you hear
must
that
like you.
Do you hear that, reductress?
Yeah.
Stop turning me down.
Yeah, my seal of approval is going to get you far, but so thinking about when you started and then when you finally figured that, hey, I'm really good at this, and yet you're trying to juggle what I would say is probably one of the most stressful full-time jobs if you're working for a hospice that you could possibly have. How do you juggle the comedy and doing the hospice nursing type stuff and caring for people? How does that mix for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would be as good at my job as a hospice nurse practitioner if I didn't have that outlet.
Mhm.
Like at the beginning of the pandemic last year, I never got a day off. Like,
Yeah,
we all healthcare
yeah,
workers continued to work.
right.
Um, and so when I like had to go to work and didn't have that release, that outlet, even 1 or 2 nights a week to be able to go to an open mic or something, it it was so hard. Like it was so hard to stay like motivated. But you see a lot of really, really sad stuff, but you also see like stuff that's just hilarious,
Yeah.
the stuff that people tell you, and they'll share their talents with you. Like one time, I met a patient who used to play backup guitar for Johnny Cash for like a little while.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
yeah, like just some of the stuff that they tell you, it's like, whoa, this is incredible. So and a lady who was like a professional ballroom dancer who like traveled around the country and it's just like, you would never know these people just live, in a little unassuming house and
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
um but yeah, it so I've always been pretty good at like finding the funny in stuff that isn't like necessarily maybe funny.
Right.
And I like loved Jerry Seinfeld growing up, that kind of like observational humor. So like
Mhm.
um I don't pull like a ton from my work, just because of like patient confidentiality and stuff. And it can be kind of a bummer to for like people who don't enjoy talking about death every day like I do.
Yeah.
So
Well, could you imagine if one of your tracks gets on Sirius and it's
yeah.
about somebody that died and their kinfolk are listening and
And they're like,
they
hey,
discover, "Hey,
talking about Nana.
Aunt
So
Mamie's famous."
yeah. No, I mean I do a pretty good job of like disguising, not giving any like identifying information, but yeah. Yeah. So that's, yeah, kind of how I balance it, I guess.
Very good, very good. So, as far as your, your comedy is concerned, I mean, I looked at a lot of videos, and I mean, you can do a mean pun, and you can do really good misdirects, and you can also do good stories and things like that, and you mix it up really well. Did you, when you started, did you have, were you like a one-liner? Were you all puns? Were you all misdirects? How did you evolve from when you started to where you are now?
That's a really good question, and you're doing a really good job pointing out that I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, and definitely need to
That's not what
commit
I
to a
said. I said you were good at
style.
all of it.
No, need to commit to a style. Um, I feel like it takes a little bit of skill to do a like a story joke well. I
Mhm,
almost feel like you have to have a little bit of like street cred
mhm,
before, because you have to be okay with like silence during a story.
Right.
You can't get like nervous and speed up and stuff like that. You have to be able to either know how to like pepper in more jokes so there's not silence, or just
Mhm.
be okay with like, hey, there's 45 seconds of exposition in this story and y'all are just gonna have to sit tight for it.
Right.
So
Right.
but yeah, I probably did a lot more like one liners, puns, and misdirects when I first started out.
Uh-huh.
um
I
yeah.
could not write a pun to save my life.
Oh,
I
sure you could.
I recognize them when I hear them,
Uh-huh.
but for me to think of one, my brain just doesn't do that. I absolutely
Yeah.
cannot do that. It's funny you talk about setups and how you have to keep people interested even when they're not laughing, and, uh, a few weeks ago, I had Liz Miele on,
Mhm.
and she has a style where there's a lot of exposition, there's a lot of setup, and she says that she's still, I mean, she's pretty famous.
Mhm.
She's very well respected, and there's still people who won't book her because of the way, because she doesn't do laughs per minute.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't think it matters as long as people are leaning in and paying attention.
Mhm.
And I talk to people. I've talked to a couple Australian comics and a couple uh, comics from the UK, and it's totally different over there. They give you all the time you
Right.
want to do a setup as long as the story's good. And I
Yeah, yeah,
wish
yeah.
I wish our attention spans were a little bit better here in the States.
Yeah, or I guess I wish that the same people weren't like the tastemakers,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
because there's room for all different kinds of comedy like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I agree, because there's definitely a place for somebody that, just spits out a 100 one-liners in 20 minutes and gets a laugh at each one, a Mitch Hedberg type or something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
there's space for that, but I like storytelling type stuff. I like to, kinda be, taken on a little journey when I'm
Yeah.
laughing, so that's,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I like. But as far as the Indianapolis scene is concerned, I don't think, and I'm not close to it, but I don't think I've met anybody from the Indianapolis scene that I just didn't like. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
well,
The
that's at
the
Hoosier Hospitality, Scott.
Yeah.
It's right in our goddamn state motto.
Yeah.
We have to be nice.
Yeah, but I was in South Bend, and there was quite a few I didn't like there,
Okay,
so
that's
but
fair. That's fair.
but it seems like you guys are, I guess, pretty supportive of each other, and I see, you do a show and you have certain comics on, and then some of those comics do a show, and it just seems like you guys are constantly feeding each other gigs and just being nice to each other.
Yeah, yeah,
Is my
absolutely.
impression right about that?
Yeah, I think so. People, are, I think for the most part, the people who, kind of are book shows in town, really try to like make a conscious effort to, have a lot of different people on the shows. And
Mhm,
so that means you're not just like booking your three friends every single time.
mhm,
And I think that, people just, they genuinely like want people to succeed, whatever that means to them, you know.
mhm,
And it's like I think a lot of people too I think hopefully understand that one person, like someone else's success is not my failure, you know.
mhm. Right, right. I think that's a very good tack to have, and if you have that attitude, then you're probably gonna do better than if, you're just constantly jealous of people who do well.
Yeah, like I can't be on every show. I don't want to be on every show.
Yeah,
It would be boring for audiences if I was on every show.
right,
So I can't like get upset when other people get opportunities that it's like I will get opportunities that they won't, and that's okay, you
right,
know.
right, no doubt. Now you've gotten to work with some big names, and big names, they come and go, and they do their show. What's the most positive, I don't like to ask about negative stuff. What's the most
Uh-huh.
positive experience you had working with one of the big names?
I got to open for Iliza Shlesinger when she came to Indianapolis
Uh-huh.
last year, like right before the pandemic, and it was just a phenomenal experience. One,
Mm.
she was just the nicest person and was like, "Come sit with me while I do my makeup," and just like, you know, chatted with me, and I got to play with her little dog, and they're
Uh-huh.
so sweet. And like just made everything so easy for me. It was talk about being starstruck. I got to like drive my car right up next to like the old National Murat Theater
Uh-huh.
and park like where they load in the drum kit or whatever, if it's a concert,
Yeah.
and like walk right in and like be like, I'm on the show, and have some like big burly security guard come like escort me. It was so bizarre. Like but so and then just to so it was two shows, and that theater seats about 2,500, 3,000 people, I think. So the first one was completely sold out, and the second one was like 17, 1,800 at the
Mhm.
second show. But to perform for a room that big was just so mind-blowing. And then to get to sit like directly backstage and watch her just like put on a master class about physical comedy, because that's kind of like what she does,
Uh-huh.
was a lot of fun. So
That's cool. With a
yeah.
venue that big, this is kind of a weird question, but with a venue that big and you've got that many people in the audience, you have the opportunity to understand what it's like to feel the rolling laugh as the sound goes through
Yes.
the did you experience that?
Totally,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, yeah, there's this one joke or where the punchline is like, that was a spelling joke for the people in the and I said, for the people in the back. And
Uh-huh.
it was like you had to wait for it to go like that. And then like the other, like, this is gonna sound so weird, Scott, but like, so the first show was sold out, and like I said, the second one was like, three-quarters of the way sold out.
Uh-huh.
You could tell a difference.
Oh, yeah, I
You
bet.
could tell a difference, that you're like, "Oh, okay, so there are about 1,000 less people in this room. It feels a little different."
Yeah.
Not which it's still the second largest crowd I've performed in front of,
Uh-huh.
was that crowd,
Yeah.
but it still felt different than the, like, 2,500 one, so
Yeah. It's funny. I got to see, and I'm not gonna name the comedian, but I got to see a comedian in Indianapolis, and I liked the show so much that when they came to South Bend, I went to see the same show, and
Uh-huh.
my wife and I went, and I didn't care that
Yeah.
I knew he was gonna say the same stuff, and I
Yeah.
didn't care, I just wanted to see it again, but it was really funny because it was a weird crowd, and it wasn't sold out, and the show on Indy was sold out,
Yeah.
and I think he actually added another show after it, so, really, he did really well
Different
there,
crowd, yeah.
and the energy was just totally different. It was almost like he was just off, and
Uh-huh.
the people who were there that weren't at the one in Indianapolis, they probably didn't even notice,
Yeah,
and
but
but,
you could tell.
yeah, and I thought I was being a comedy snob or something like that, and my wife said the same thing. She said, "Yeah,
Really.
this is really different," and
Yeah.
yeah, so it's really I learned because I saw another comedian in Chicago that I thought I really liked, and he was just absolutely awful the night I saw
Oh,
him,
really?
and I was just totally turned off this guy for the rest of the time, and then I saw this other comedian do this, I'm like, "Yeah, I guess you can have a really off night even when you're a big shot." So,
Yeah.
it was a weird experience. So, I was glad I went through it because
Uh-huh.
it made me appreciate comedy more and audiences more, but, yeah,
Absolutely.
it was a weird experience.
Yeah.
Um, Next question. Sorry. I, uh, it's just one of those days. I keep having technical difficulties, and I was barely ready when you came on the screen. So, anyhow,
No
uh,
worries.
as far as the, your 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 material goes, it's kinda universal. I mean, you don't you g some I'm trying to think of the channels on Sirius. Okay, so I think your material could land at least on 2. channels on Sirius. You could be on the Squeaky Clean channel and the Raw Dog.
Oh,
Uh,
I don't think I could be on the Squeaky Clean channel.
oh, there is a middle one, isn't there? There's a Squeaky
Yeah.
Clean, and then there's the Somewhat Clean, and then Raw Dog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you could probably get on both of those with your material.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a handful that I could have on the Clean channel, but who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the one that really gets the most airplay. I guess the waiting list to get on the Raw Dog station is like, a mile long.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, everybody's got raunchy material.
Yeah, yeah. And I've heard some material that's funny though, because some of the material I've heard on Raw Dog is super old.
Oh, interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and I just got I didn't have XM for a long time, and I just got, like, they offered me 90 days for free, so I'm gonna do it for 90 days and then probably shut it
Nice.
off again
Nice.
because I don't like paying for things. But
Very fair.
yeah. As far as, the, places you've performed at, I saw some clips at the, Comedy Attic. Can you tell
Mhm.
me a little bit, because I've talked to a lot of people that love the Comedy Attic.
Yeah.
I had Todd Glass on a few weeks ago, and when I mentioned the Comedy Attic, he went on a Todd Glass rant about
So
how great it is and how shitty all the other comedy clubs are. But tell me about the Comedy Attic and how that has shaped your comedy, because I've heard that it just rubs off on people and makes you a better comic.
yeah, the Comedy Attic is such a fantastic comedy club. They, really and truly care about like the art form of comedy
Hmm.
and making sure that comics have a great experience and are just really like able to do their art or whatever,
Hmm.
if you can call our dick and fart jokes art. Um, Bloomington is kind of like a unique town in that it's a college town, but it's kind of like almost like a little hippie enclave
Yeah.
in Indiana, which is otherwise like largely, outside of Indianapolis, a pretty like red state, pretty conservative state. Um, but for whatever reason, I think some of it is the university being there and
Hmm.
some of that other kind of stuff. It attracts like I said, just kind of a little like diverse, educated, hippie kind of community. And when they come out to shows, they're very supportive and very like kind and generous with their laughs.
Hmm.
The staff is fantastic. They did a really amazing job. I think they had said this year that they didn't have a single COVID case amongst their staff
Yeah.
because they were just all like really cared about being careful and stuff. So, and then Jared, the owner of the Comedy Attic, he's a delight, and
Uh-huh.
he I owe him a lot for like taking a chance on me, letting me like headline my first club weekend there. So it was a really big deal, and I can't thank him enough for that. So
Yeah. I only got to go see a show at the Comedy Attic a couple times, but and I can't even remember who I saw. I wanted to see Marin when he did it,
Mhm.
and wasn't able to get there. But both my kids went to IU, and they were like back to back. Like when my daughter graduated, my
Okay,
son started.
started
So
there.
I know they went to some shows and really enjoyed it. But
Yeah.
I was just really it it's funny when you create an atmosphere like that, and it's funny, I'm gonna be talking this about this on 2 in a row, because I talked to, David about the same stuff,
Yeah.
because he recorded his album there, and
Yeah.
it's funny when you go in there, and it's almost I know that Jared really has rules, and he doesn't let the audience fuck around,
Right.
too much, before, he stops them. But it just seems like one of those places that just has so much art in the walls or something like that, that it's not only a good place to see comedy, but it seems like stuff is almost created there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think when you're in an environment like that where you can tell that, like, everybody else is taking it really seriously, as serious as you can say take comedy, right?
Yeah.
You know, this is all, like, relative.
Yeah.
But, like, if you go in there knowing, "Okay, you know, these people are gonna pay attention to me, and that I'm not gonna have to worry about, like, anybody being, like, distracting in the audience or anything like that," then, I think it, one, like, pushes you to do your best, and then also makes you feel like you have the opportunity to maybe, like, stretch your legs a little bit
Mhm.
and say, "Okay, I'm gonna take a chance on this," or something, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So you've got, exactly 30 days before the album recording. What's your plans after it's done?
Um, I mean, I think it starts up with, like, I have to, like, listen to rough cuts of it and try to make decisions. I
Yeah.
would This is the part that I have no interest or desire or, like, know how to do. In fact, Scott, I don't hear very well, if we're gonna be real honest, to be like, not I'm kidding, but, like, to be like, "Oh, can we turn up the fade a little bit
Yeah.
on the bass drum, on that cover of Tom Sawyer by Rush," or whatever. Like, I don't I'll just be like, "Yeah, can they hear what I said, and can they hear people laugh at it? Then that's enough for me, like, I'm fine."
Yeah.
But, so, yeah, I think there's some of that. Um, and then, I haven't planned a lot beyond that because, you know, I honestly, like, earlier this year, was still not sure how much anybody was gonna be able to, like, be out on the road or
Mhm.
anything with COVID. But I think I read something recently that we're about to get to this thing to where it's endemic, where everyone is either vaccinated or has been exposed, or is dead.
Yeah, yeah.
So, um so, I feel like next year, like, once the album comes out, which I'm pushing for, like, late February,
Mhm.
I would like to maybe take some time and, like, go out on the road a little bit to promote it. Um, Even if just, you know, like, in the around the Midwest and the, like, Southeast.
Okay, cool. Coincidentally, your proposed release date is when my lease is up in this stupid apartment. So
Oh, oh my
maybe we'll
god.
both have a good day. Maybe we'll both,
Yeah.
you'll get an album release and I can live in a
Yeah.
townhouse or something again
Perfect. Well,
without
it's
dinosaurs living above me.
it's my 40th birthday, so, that's, like, the
Oh,
impetus
really
for
cool.
releasing
Yeah.
it then is that I can be like, "Hey, if you would like to wish me a happy birthday, you can please pre-order my album."
Yeah. That's really neat. Now, so 40 was not a big deal for me, but 30 was. What was that
Okay.
for you? Same for you? Well, you haven't hit
Uh,
40 yet, so you don't know.
yeah, I haven't hit 40 yet. 30 was fun, I had a really nice time. I think I played skee ball and had some wine. Uh,
Okay.
but, yeah, I don't know.
I got blackout drunk. So, yeah, there you go.
Alright, alright. That's fair.
Yeah, yeah. And that was before Uber, so, I had to
Ooh.
have somebody else take me home, and I had to go back for my car still. Uh one of the things that we're friends on Facebook, who knows how that stuff happens because we don't even really know each other, but it happens.
The magic of the internet.
Everybody with a mic in their hand gets a friend request from somebody else with a mic in their hand. But
Exactly.
you mentioned something that I've never really brought up to any of my guests of the female persuasion because I don't think it's my spot to be talking about it. But it just seems so stupid that guys are still doing the stuff that guys did when I was a young guy.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned some things, and we don't want to get into specifics or stuff like that. But do you have any theories on why men are so stupid, and especially men who are at a comedy show?
It's a great question. One that I think we've been asking for a very long time. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're going to get to the bottom of it here tonight. Spoiler alert. But yeah. So kind of the particular instance you were talking about the other, or not exactly, but I had made a post on Facebook the other day, and the thing that like it had made me so incensed about this was that I had just had like three different men tell me like in the last 2 weeks before that they're like, man, it is a great time to be a woman in comedy. And what I would like people to do is learn the difference between the words better and great.
Yeah. Yeah.
um because just as it is, it is better, it is better. But
Mhm.
to say that it is great, I think is probably not accurate. And I also don't think that you as a man get to, not you, but like the royal you, I
I
don't
get
think
it. Yeah.
you as a man get to decide that it's a great time to be a woman in comedy.
Mhm.
Because in this particular scenario that I had had, like several men over the summer introduced me on stage saying something to the effect of that they wanted to have sex with me, and two of them said something to the effect of that, like, if I didn't do it willingly, they were going to force it upon me. Um, and this is as they're introducing me, like, as I'm
Yeah.
about to walk out on stage and, like, do a set.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and then, I yeah, like, I had, like, several other people, like, wanna, like, hug me and then, like, kiss me and during a
Mhm.
respiratory pandemic, and I'm like, "What do you what?" I don't know. I don't know if it's just that they're, like, nervous on stage and it translates to that, or they are they think that that's a compliment and that's gonna like gas me up or get me, like feel good before I go out on stage.
Mhm.
I assure you it doesn't. Like having
Mhm.
somebody talk about raping me right before I go out on stage, it is like the last thing to get me in a good headspace
Right.
for doing comedy.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. And then it's like it also becomes too, it's like if I say something, then like I'm kind of a bitch and then I have to win the audience back over from that, you know?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Oftentimes they'll like be with you and be like, "Yeah, you tell them," or whatever. But then other times it's like, well, now I have to get you back on my side because I'm gonna tell this like really kind of uncomfortable funeral joke.
Yeah.
Um, and I can't, I only like get the license to do that because I've built up 5 minutes of goodwill beforehand.
Right. Right.
Um,
And
so yeah.
and and the best case scenario, they just fuck that up.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I don't know if they're just trying to be funny or they think it's like a palling around like friend kind of thing. And I'm like, would you say that to the next guy coming on stage? Like,
Yeah.
you, yeah, I don't understand. I don't know. All I want people to do is be like, she's from Indianapolis. It's Gwen Sunkel. Like, you don't have to say
Yeah.
anything else. And very when people say like ask for like how do you want to be introduced, I'm like I don't I just say I'm from Indianapolis. That's you don't have
Yeah.
to remember anything special. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. I wish I knew. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts, Scott? Why do you think that men are?
I do have some thoughts. I still believe it is a power thing. So I think anytime that they sexualize you,
Mhm.
then all of a sudden they are the person in power.
Uh-huh.
That's my own thing.
Yeah, I mean, you are much more cynical than I am. But it's probably true. It's probably 100% true. Yeah, we don't like to think about that. Or I don't like to think about that. But yeah, it's like infantilizing in other ways, and then
Yeah.
like, but it's like you're. a male in comedy, like you're already the one in power, like why do you need to like flex right before I'm going out there to try
Right.
to do the thing that I'm here to do?
Yeah. Well, we are, as a group, little boys, and we, our our growth was stunted somewhere. So, but it really bugs me because I've never even it's never even entered my mind to do anything like that because it's work. I mean,
Yeah.
you're at work, and your set is your work, and
Yeah.
whatever subjects you decide to talk about, that doesn't go into before and after. That's
No.
all encapsulated on
Yeah.
in your thing, and then beyond that, it's be nice, be respectful, and get on to the next thing.
Yeah.
It's just work.
Yeah, like whatever job you have outside of doing comedy, if you have one, could you say that to one of your coworkers? Like if you were introducing someone at a meeting or something, would
Mhm.
you say that about them? And I get that things have context and stuff. But the other thing too is like these people aren't even like my friends where we have
Right.
like a joking relationship like that. And it's like, it's not a show at a comedy club where I'm trying to get past. It's like somebody's backyard birthday show or something like that. I can take
Mhm.
a joke. There's a time and place for stuff.
Right.
Um, and but uh, yeah, like I said, it's other times, and especially if I don't know you,
Mhm.
we don't have it like that.
Right, right. Yeah, I have a hard time understanding that it is still as prevalent as it is because we've been talking about this for quite a while now,
Yeah.
and it just I don't you're right, we're not gonna come up with an answer, but I did wanna mention it on at least one of my shows because I hope somebody listens and thinks a little bit before they say shit.
Yeah,
That
I
so that
appreciate that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm going for, I hope. And,
Yeah.
this is a question I ask everybody, and I stopped asking the the negative part of the question because I just want positivity. I want this to be
Yeah.
so fucking positive, and that's what I want. And so, what are the 3 things that you know now? I'm going in slow motion now. What are the 3 What are the 3 things that you know now that you wish you would have known when you first started stand-up comedy?
Um, so write way more than you think you need to write.
Okay.
Um, don't be afraid to get rid of a joke if it's not working,
Uh-huh.
or rework it. Um, and it just be nicer than necessary to people. Like everybody's going through something.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's just good life advice in general. But
Uh-huh.
you know, again, you tearing other people down doesn't make you more successful. So
Mhm.
like, I guess focus on what you're doing and like stay in your lane and what success means for you, and don't worry about like what opportunities other people are or are not getting.
Mhm. Okay. And what's the best piece of advice you ever got from another comedian?
Oh, I mean, I do a pretty good job of this, but like having fun, I think is
Okay.
because so often we get and I'm guilty of it too, like when my schedule is really busy or I'm burnout or tired or it's like I don't want to drive 4 hours round trip to do this show in a shitty bar in the middle of nowhere.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, just that you get to do that, and it's like it's awesome that you
Uh-huh.
get to do that, and like don't let the like the grind of it pull you down, you know.
Yeah. Don't let it kill the joy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think it's really important too that people like have other interests beyond just doing comedy.
Mhm.
Because if comedy is like the only thing you care about, like yeah, those heartbreaks are going to be even more heartbreaking. And the highs are going to be higher, the lows are going to be lower, and you also aren't that interesting. You don't have anything to talk about if the only
Yeah.
thing you're doing is stand-up comedy.
Right, right. Yeah, so instead of 12 open mics in a week, maybe just give yourself one night off.
Yeah, yeah, and join a bowling league or something.
Yeah. um so I can't uh, plug the recording of your album because you told me it just sold out. So
It just sold out
yeah,
today.
congratulations on that. But
Thank you.
what do you have coming up, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be at Black Circle Brewing on this Sunday coming up. Um, the first Thursday of every month, I'm always at an evening with the authors um, at the White Rabbit Cabaret. Um, I'm doing a backup, like I'm doing kind of like a dress rehearsal recording for my album in Louisville on November 4th. So if you are in Kentucky or Louisville nearby and would like to come out, that one is not sold out,
Okay.
and I don't know many people in Louisville, so come on by.
All right.
So, but yeah, you can find all of my information. My social media handles for everything are at Gwender Woman, so like Wonder Woman, but Gwen.
All right. All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show,
Oh
and
gosh,
I
thanks for
really,
having me.
yeah, I'm really stoked, and I can't wait to hear the album when it comes out.
Thank
And
you.
I I I'm glad I got to talk to somebody on the precipice of an album instead of after it's already done and released, because you're still in the middle of it.
Right.
Well, thank you
Um,
thank you again for being on the show. It was really nice talking to you.
Absolutely.